actually didn't apply directly for my first job at Palgrave. So I applied for the Macmillan graduate scheme, and they knew that I was interested in academic publishing, so they assigned me to Palgrave, which is the Humanities and Social Science division. And it's interesting actually because I probably wouldn't have applied for the job that they ended up assigning me to. I ended up working as a journal publishing manager, so developing and commissioning journals in the humanities and social sciences. And I ended up really loving it because it gave me a really holistic view of publishing that I wouldn't have got from the editorial role that I would have gone for. Yeah. I studied English like many people in publishing. And lots of people ask me when they're thinking about going into publishing, well, do I need to study English? And I think the answer, especially for academic publishing, is a fervent no. Because we publish such a range of subjects, we really value subject-specific expertise. But I do think that my degree gave me skills that have been really useful to me. So the ability to kind of read and assimilate a lot of information, make inferences, draw out the salient points. And also the awareness that there are no right answers and you've really got to make a judgment call means that somewhat counterintuitively, a humanities degree turns out to be quite useful in a commercial business. I think, well, I'd thought about going into academia and I really seriously considered doing a PhD. So when I was sort of thinking about what I wanted to do, I realised that academia wasn't quite right for me. I did want something more commercial, but I wanted something that would allow me to stay close to it, to still work with academics. So I work in the digital team, and that's really a kind of publishing team rather than a technical team. So one of my main responsibilities at the moment is to do with our open access publishing, so looking after our open access books through the publishing process, just to make sure that everything is done right and they come out in the right way. But also looking for new models, so how we might expand our open access options for books, which is really exciting. And making sure that our editorial team have all the information they need to go out and talk to their authors about our open access options. More broadly, I do try to make sure that our editorial team are kept up to date both with our digital initiatives at Palgrave and more widely at Macmillan Science and Education, because there's a lot going on and it's really important that they're kept plugged into that. I do a lot of research. So I go out and talk to academics about their working lives. So really detailed interviews, not just about their publishing decisions and preferences, but really about what it is to be an academic. How do they conduct their research? What do their days look like? What are the pressures upon them? And the idea is that the more we know about their working lives, the better we can serve them as our authors and our readers. So it's really fascinating. It's a bit of my job I love. And then finally, there's a more experimental side, so looking at new tools and services that we could offer to academics, so often kind of that comes out of the research, and launching trials. So for example, we recently launched an open peer review trial. Open access is really about making the material freely accessible and as reusable as possible. So it's quite an idealistic movement in ways, but it's really becoming an important reality for academic publishers. So it doesn't just mean making it free, it means ensuring that it's free in perpetuity and that it's very clear what people can do with it so that people feel free to share the work. I think curiosity is really important. I'm not sure if that's a skill actually, but to question why things are as they are and to question the assumptions about publishing is just a really useful skill to have. And also to be curious about the subjects that you're publishing and about the new research that's coming out, because it enables you to make better decisions about where to, for example, if you're an editor, where to direct your list. I think it's a bit of a truism, but adaptability and flexibility, I mean, especially in digital roles, because they're so varied and there really isn't any kind of typical month or typical year, and often you're working on a project by project basis, so being able to turn your hands to the needs of whatever the business needs at that moment is really important. I just think it's a really creative, collaborative, fun place to work. And the people that I work with are so smart, engaged and passionate about what they do and the subjects that they publish. So I just think it's a really great place to work. If there's one thing that I could change about the publishing industry, it is the representation of women at senior levels. I'm very proud to work for a company that has a female CEO, Annette Thomas, and we actually have women well represented on our board, on the science and scholarly side, and at senior management levels. But I think that's quite rare. And if you think about how female-dominated the workforce is in publishing, I think we have a lot more to do to ensure that women are as enabled as men to reach the top. I think there's a lot more to come on open access in terms of expanding the options and the models for that. I think we're still, especially for scholarly books, in a very experimental stage. We haven't yet found the model. Maybe there won't be the model, but we're seeing some really interesting developments there, so that's going to be important. I think also publishers having a more complete sense of what they do in terms of not just thinking about publishing from an academic's point of view, but thinking about tools and services and about the research cycle more broadly is going to be a really interesting development in the years to come. I think academic publishing is just a fundamentally rewarding area in which to work, because the research that we publish has the potential to change lives, and it tells us about who we are and why we are. And so anything that we can do to free up academics to spend their time researching, writing, reading, rather than worrying about how they're going to get published, is contributing to that in some small way. So I think that's really rewarding. I think when you're trying to do new things, it is challenging. Academia can be quite conservative. The publishing industry is open to innovation, but also, it's very established in what it does. So trying to change that is always quite challenging. When we launched our open peer review trial, peer review is really fundamental to academic publishing. The idea that your work has been assessed and approved by an expert in your field, and that expert is anonymous, so that they feel free to give their verdict. But we also think that there are problems with that. So, for example, it can allow bias to creep in, and it means perhaps a limited number of perspectives. So we tried opening it up, but actually from both a process point of view and from the sort of policy point of view, and trying to explain why it's worthwhile to try it is challenging.